Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to our Township Council meeting of November 12th. I'd like to officially call this meeting to order and the time is 1 p.m. To start with, we'll begin with our land acknowledgement and a moment of silent reflection.
With deep respect, we acknowledge the lands and interconnected waterways that bind us together, the foundation for all life. These lands serve as a keeper of history and stories and are a source of inspiration. In recognizing this, we embrace that all living things possess an important energy and purpose. We extend the utmost gratitude to the original peoples who have been caretakers of these lands and waters of this region from time immemorial, and to this day who continue this commitment. Peterborough County's dedication to reconciliation remains steadfast. In this spirit, we are committed to nurturing meaningful partnerships and connections that contribute to an environment of prosperity and well-being for all generations to come. This acknowledgement is made on the Treaty 20 land and the territory of the Mississauga and Anishinaabe, and within the traditional lands of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaty First Nations. Further, our gratitude is extended to the nations of Alderville, Beausoleil, Curve Lake, Georgina Island, Hiawatha, Rama, and Scugog Island.
We'll now ask members to declare any pecuniary interest before this council. Seeing no hands, we'll move to the approval of the agenda. By Mayor Burt, seconder by Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor? Motion's carried. Approval of the prior minutes. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the regular meeting minutes of October 22nd as presented or amended. Councillor Walker, as presented. Seconder, Councillor Hodge Greaves. Any, all in favor? That motion's carried. Do we have any business arising from the minutes? Okay, seeing none. Under the consent agenda, we have correspondence items C1 through C13 and most recent meeting minutes from the Public Library Board and Cultural and Heritage Committee. Do we have someone to approve as circulated or amended? Councillor Hodge Greaves, Councillor Ward. All in favor of that motion? Motion is carried. Moving along, we have a presentation today from the Asphodel-Norwood Public Library to provide an update on the Youth Advisory Committee. CAO Librarian Trish Reed, please start us off. Yes.
Mayor, I did want to comment on a couple of,
Okay.
points, if I may. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Trish.
I'm so sorry, Trish. Sorry, first on C3, sorry, I apologize, everyone. The OPP report.
That's my fault.
Yeah.
I did talk to you earlier, sorry.
Yeah,
C3.
yeah, C3, and, C12 and C10.
I can.
Yeah.
Would you like to comment now?
Yes, please. C3, this would be to Alan, if our CAO, if he could answer. Thank you for putting the OPP report in. It was lots of information. I was just wondering with the increases to the OPP, if we had any indication where we might fall as a township with increases to our OPP.
I can comment about what Mr. Genie has said in the letter that come to us, that they will look after all municipalities that are seeing an increase on their OPP budget. Go ahead.
Through you, Mayor. We've got the draft from them. We're working on that and just what it's going to mean to the budget. So when we do the budget presentation, we will be highlighting that. At this point, it is fairly significant, not as big as I have seen in some other municipalities, but bigger than I would like. One of the things I understand, AMO is working with the provincial government because the number of municipalities have brought this up to them. Whether now or down the road, it might not be a bad idea for us to also express our concern around this.
Thank you.
C10,
C10, I was just wondering, again, this is to our CEO, Alan Hewitt, about the OMPF funding. I did see the Asphodel-Norwood's funding came in at 721,600. And I was just wondering if this was similar to previous years.
Through you, Mayor, that's more or less in line with what we've had. I think it might be slightly less, but again, it's right in the same ballpark we would normally get for that.
Okay. And finally, C12, if I may. And this was Deputy Mayor
There's-
Bird's report on the waste report and the audit. And I did see that on page 14, Asphodel-Norwood's waste composition. It's quite telling when you start seeing the breakdown when they do these audits. And I was just wondering if the mayor or deputy mayor may enlighten us a little bit more about those reports.
I'll start off.
Okay, sounds
If you look at the report, it does show that we have a higher percentage of green waste that's going into our waste. That's not just your potato peels, your eggshells, blah, blah, blah. A lot of pet waste is also going in there. This increases our garbage flow that's going to the Bensford site. And we, of course, we went with the composters. We're trying to divert stuff from going to that site. We do have a couple ideas. I was talking with Deputy Mayor Burke earlier. You wanna carry on?
Sure. So, yeah, when you look at the numbers, we're over 50% green waste, food waste, pet waste. That's a lot. That's a lot of stuff that can be diverted that's going in. We have provided composters, we provided digesters, we had the trial with the little composters. It's not working, and it's not just our township, it's everywhere. And I'm sure if you did a look at the entire province, it'd be the same if they didn't have green waste. I think it's something that we're going to have to look at. And I know we've done the garbage upload study with the county, should be getting the final report soon. I'm not sure when. I have a feeling, just from sitting around the council table at county last week, I don't think it's gonna go as a county-wide waste thing. It doesn't sound like it. If there is some interest, likely only 2 or 3 left. And I think as the smallest township in the county, I'm afraid that we would be subsidizing, those larger pots perhaps. And that's my feeling, could be wrong. And I think the problem with that is, I don't think we're gonna get solid numbers. We have solid numbers from Jeff today, knowing exactly what our waste collection is. So I think that's good. So what I thought, and Pat had mentioned it too, we had at one time those mullocks. I don't think they're up there now, are they, Jeff? At the landfill, the mullocks for green waste, we don't have any up there anymore,
No, we
do we?
don't have those. I think, North Portland is the one that still has them on exactly.
Okay, so I'm just wondering if we need to get staff to take a look at that. Might be one option, is to have something there, maybe something in Westwood, maybe something in Asphodel Heights where people can dump their green waste. If, I think that the province is gonna mandate this at some point. I think we need to be ahead of the game. Maybe if they do, maybe there'll be some money coming forward. Doubt it, but you never know. It's always hopeful. I'm just wondering if we should start the process to give the staff another job to take a look at options. Sorry, Jeff. Because I think it's gonna happen. We've got to try to do it as cost effective as possible. I'm not sure. Yeah, door to door, curbside pickup would be the ultimate. It's going to be extremely expensive, so maybe we need to look at an entry level thing and see how that works. So just my thought. And I bounced it off the mayor and he suggested that. And anyway, Murphy thought that was okay. So I'm throwing it out there to see where it lands and what others think, and throwing it, I guess, on Jeff's plate. Sorry, Jeff.
We don't-
That's my comment.
We don't really want to see any tax increases because of this. As Deputy Mayor Bird has said, 3 locations, maybe Asphodel Heights, one in Westwood, and one on the outside of the gates of the dump. I don't want to see us having to buy the green bins for residents, but I think every residence has a pail that they could fill and they could drop it off themselves when it's full. Just to keep costs down.
And then, I love that concept, and then what happens to it when those locations get full?
Gets picked up, goes to the Peterbilt Lansford site, which the city has a composting station in there now.
They're screaming for it. They
Okay.
won't, they'll take out any
They'll
waste.
take
They'll
any,
take
right.
it. They'll take green waste.
Sorry, if I may follow up on that. So I know that it was successful having different sites for leaf pickup throughout the township. Would this be something that we should make a motion on to ask for a report coming forward? Or is it something that just leave it in the staff's hands?
Go ahead, see it out.
Through you, Mayor. So I've heard some really interesting discussion there. I would think if you want to move it forward, a motion even just for staff to investigate options might be your best. Keep it big and broad, and we can kind of work with it from there.
All right, Deputy Mayor Bird, you care to make the motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion that council request staff to look at options for green waste disposal within the township. Yeah, I don't really have it.
That's.
Yes, that's fine. I don't really have a deadline on that.
No.
Yep, that's good.
Seconder, Councillor Ward, all in favor? Thank you. Trish, you now have the podium again.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. We are excited to share an update with council today about our youth advisory group and the outstanding contributions that they have had to date with the Asphodel-Norwood Public Library, or ANPL. The group was established in April of 2024. And the role is to serve in an advisory capacity, helping to inform ANPL on the interests that our local youth and teens have to help guide the programs and services that we're offering. This collaborative approach will help to ensure that we are an inclusive and welcoming gathering space for the youth and teens within our community. Involving youth and teens is important. They are the ones who are aware of the service gaps and they can share that with us firsthand. They're also the ones who can go back out into the community and promote about the events and programs that we have going on. It's also empowering for the youth and teens who are involved. They are getting an opportunity to develop advocacy skills and also improve the lives of their fellow youth and teens within our community. So our board composition, we have our president, Annabelle, we have our vice president, Scarlett, and we have a secretary, Andrea, who's unfortunately unable to be here, and 8 other members at large. At this point in the presentation, I am honored to hand over the presentation to both our president and vice president.
Hi, my name's Scarlett and I'm the vice president of the Youth Advisory Group. So our logo was made by our member Sarah. We decided to make a logo because we wanted to put ourselves out there and have something that represents us. We got to vote on 2, and we had like 2 logos, and we chose this one because we felt like it represented us the best. Yeah, that's all.
So far we've had 2 events, both hosted at the Norwood branch. They were both relatively successful. We had 18 and 12 participants. So the Nerf Neon Night was an event where it was basically a collaboration event. We all got to play a big game with Nerf, and we had snacks as well. And we just got to get together and spend time, which was super fun. Like, we got to know new people we didn't know before, and like that was super fun. And then we had a Halloween movie night, which we played a lot of games. And then we watched a movie, which was Ghostbusters. And we also had snacks. So we all came and we got to, snacks was the best part, of course. So we just watched a movie together and we learned new people, met new people. So it's very good because we got to meet a lot of new people in both events, which I think is very good to collaboration. And then in the future, we want to focus on a sports program. So we're going to do every month introducing our youth to different sports so that they can have new opportunities and maybe things they couldn't do otherwise. We're also going to do a Dungeons and Dragons group where we get to meet either bi-weekly or monthly. And you basically just get together and play a fun game of Dungeons and Dragons. Our craft night would be monthly and we'd just get together and like craft and build things that we might not have got to build ourselves at home and meet new people. And then finally, we are thinking of learning opportunities. So like cooking or baking, music or instruments, advanced coding, photography, woodworking, building. We could go out into the community to do this stuff, or we could do it at the library, but it's new skills that we could learn and new people.
So I just want to take an opportunity to share in regards to the sports program that Annabelle was speaking about. The Asphodel-Norwood Public Library is really excited to share that we've been selected as a recipient for an Ontario Trillium Foundation seed grant in the amount of $15,200. In June, we submitted an application for the Youth and Teen Sports Sampler Program. And this program, as Annabelle stated, will provide new opportunities for youth and teens to try sports at a non-competitive level, something different each month throughout 2025. So we are very excited to have these ideas come from this group in order to help support this application.
Oh, okay. So some of the other priorities that we have is where we want to create a space in both of the branches where youth and teens can feel welcome. They can like have a quiet space to study or just chill if they need some time. We also want to provide additional volunteering opportunities, like have people read to little kids or other things like that.
Anybody have any questions for our?
I'd like to thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. When you were looking at some of these programs that you're having, does any of this help students out for volunteer hours at the high school?
Yeah, so the members who are on our group who are in high school, they get hours for the meetings
Yes.
and any time that they spend planning or executing programs. We've also developed a new homework club, and a couple of our members from the youth advisory group are supporting younger students with homework help once a week. And so the youth and teens are getting volunteer hours for that as well.
Thank you. Deputy Member?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you so much. It can be a little intimidating to come here, so glad you made it. You did a great presentation, so thank you so much. I just wondered, I'll put it out to the president and vice president. I think the presentation was great and the update was fantastic. And would you be interested in doing this on an annual or semi-annual basis? Because I think it's great that all council becomes aware of everything you're doing in the community.
Yeah, I feel like that would be nice, like, so we can put out our ideas, maybe let the community know a little bit more about what we're doing right now.
Fantastic, thank you.
Councillor Hodgson?
Welcome, you did a great job. Questions about the sports program, what type of sports are you hoping to bring? I think it's a great idea to bring sports down from a competitive level to make it fun. I was just wondering what tools you were starting to think about.
So we'd probably do like, we have our pickleball court and there's a basketball court. We could use the soccer field. There's a baseball, so just sports like that.
Or even, like at the gym here, we're thinking of maybe teaching people how to properly use like the weight room and stuff like that.
Excellent.
Yeah, so part of the grant is to purchase additional equipment. So 1 month will be snowshoeing, weather permitting, and then also those snowshoes will come back into the library as borrowing and lending material for the rest of the community when they're not being used by the program. So we've mapped out, a different activity or sport for, I think, 8 months of the year.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, basically just to echo my fellow colleagues, great job. Thank you very much. It's really nice to know what you're doing and what you got planning. And to Deputy Mayor Burke's comment, it'd be nice to have you come back in 4, 5, 6 months and tell us what else you've been doing and Yeah, I look forward to it. It's awesome to have kids have something that you want to do, that your friends want to do. So that's actually awesome. So thank you very much for coming.
Any further questions, councilors? No? Okay, thank you very much again. Can I get a motion to receive this presentation for information? Councilor Walsh, Councilor Trees, all in favor? It's carried. Thank you. Moving along to staff and committee reports, R1, Desert Financial Variance. Jordan, you have the floor.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. R1 is the 2024 third quarter financial variance report. The recommendation is that the Council of Township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding the 2024 third quarter financial variance for information. It's quarterly. I provide council with an update of the financial operations of the corporation. In the report, you can see the percentage of budget spent overall for each department. To date, we're in a sustainable financial position, but there are a couple items that I'd like to speak to just briefly. We touched on it in Q2 regarding the facilities department being quite a bit over budget. The reason for that is primarily the new medical center costs, which we're all familiar with. As well, in Q2, we touched on development potentially hitting in the fourth quarter. There's development revenue that would touch the planning department, the water department, as well as the sewer and wastewater department. I've been informed that we won't see that development in Q4, so all of the revenue that we had anticipated for in 2024, we won't see, which will significantly impact the reserves for the planning department, for the water department, and the sewer department. If there's any questions, I can take them now.
Okay, thank you, Jordan. Questions, Councilor Walsh?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. Jordan, on the development, understanding where it's not going to come through Q4, do we have any sense when that may crank back up when we start building houses again?
Do you want me to take it out? Through you, Mayor. So, we don't have a crystal ball. Speaking with the planning department, they're anticipating some development in 2025, hopefully late summer. How much isn't certain, and there's no real way of guaranteeing it, right? So, sooner would be better, definitely.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Yes.
Back to the medical center. So I'm looking at the revenue line, Jordan. We're at about 54% right now, and I know and I love the notes. Thank you very much for the notes, because it does help. It looks like some of it's just timing on potential more receipts coming in. Do you have a sense where we might land? Like, I know we're at 54% of what our budget was. Do we have any anticipation where you think that may land?
Sorry, through you, Mayor. For a percentage, no, but I can tell you just quickly looking at it. The reimbursement for the utilities for King Street, we should be pretty close to that $12,000 number. A lot of that comes from the county, the paramedics, sorry. The medical center rent, we do have unleased space in the old medical center, as we know. So obviously we're not gonna hit that number. I can definitely try to forecast what I think that revenue line will look like.
I just was kind of interested to know whether would we hit at 80 or 75 or?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I can forecast something after the meeting and send it to you.
Thank you. Deputy Member?
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for the report, Jordan. Just looking at other than what you highlighted, and looking at all the other departments, they look like they're sitting pretty good, as well as the budget, being spent, to the end of the third quarter. Are there any big ticket items that need to come in quarter four that may surprises, or are things looking fairly stable for the last 3 months?
I am hoping it'll be fairly stable. There's
Okay.
nothing significant that I see in the last quarter or that I've been made aware of by the departments. I do meet with the departments regularly and ask for this stuff. Obviously, there is capital costs that we're waiting on invoicing, stuff that's outstanding. There will be some capital projects likely that were budgeted for this year that aren't going to be completed for whatever reason. That will need to be carried forward in 2025 budget, or at least proposed for consideration. So, no, I don't think there's anything glaring. The big thing is gonna be what potentially is gonna come in, as Councillor Walsh mentioned, between now and the end of the year.
Just a question, this could be maybe through Jeff or even Seamus. Capital budgets that are starting this fall or any that will carry into next year. How do you show that on your report, Jordan? Like the funds that are set out for that capital project and then they carry forward into the following year?
Through you, Mayor. So how I would show it and how we've kind of discussed it with the management team is there'll be a proposal to carry that project forward in 2025. So there's no guarantee that it does move if it hasn't started. If it's for, a new roof on a building and for whatever reason it didn't get done and they need to come to the table again with a proposal on why it wasn't done, why it needs to be done. A roof is obviously something that would almost automatically get carried forward. Something like maybe a park improvement or another area of improvement, which maybe we feel isn't a necessity in 2025, will be reevaluated and approved as part of the 2025 process. So that's my preference and how everything is done, so it doesn't automatically, if we're not spending the money in that year.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee.
Councillor Ward?
Thank you to you, Mayor. I just have one question because it's interesting to see how a water and wastewater is so closely connected to housing development, and there's a little bit of shortfall in those departments. Is looking towards the 2025 budget, do you feel that that's going to impact any of those services for residents, like for increases?
Through you, Mayor, it's tough for me to say today. I think as we get further along in the budget, as our reserve balance decreases, it doesn't allow us to use some of those reserve funds in the budget. So we've got to come up with the money from somewhere. I don't want to speak to increases today because we're not there yet. But I think, we've got to pay for it somehow. And if we don't have the reserves or enough of the reserves to cover some of the offset, then there's potential increases.
No, I appreciate not putting a number or anything like that. It was just that it was the first time really that I've seen wastewater and water attached to the development, and that would be a shortfall for those departments. And I just thought that was an interesting way of looking at it on the report. So I thank you for that.
Any further questions? Okay, I'll read the recommended motion that the council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information. Councillor Walsh, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving along to R2. Website election tender results, Public Works Manager, Jeff Walden.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. I do kind of consider this a good news story. I wasn't sure what we were gonna see when we opened the envelopes with the cost of everything going through the roof, but October 29th, of course, we opened the tenders for the curbside collection contracts. We only received one bid, which is pretty common in my history here. I think we typically get one, maybe two bids. But again, this year it's Waste Connections. It's for a 2-year contract with a provisional item of a 1-year extension at the end of the 2 years if we're happy with the services or if something changes with the company or so on. I was, again, touching base mostly on my history here. Waste Connections has always provided a good service. Typically, if there is a missed collection, it can be justified. A prime example is the last 2 weeks, or the week that we're going into with hunting season and holidays. The bylaw states that the waste is at the curbside at 7 AM. Sometimes if holidays or a driver switches a route or somebody does something different, if the truck's always there at 10 and all of a sudden it shows up at 8 and the garbage wasn't out there, that's usually how it's justified, is that the route is changed somehow by a different employee or whatever. And they're usually quick to either circle back if they're available to grab it. Anyways, long story short, we're typically happy with their service they provide. And again, the increase that was broke down the tender, you can kind of see the monthly cost versus our annual costs, and those numbers have been put into the draft budget so far, moving forward. So it's nice to have those numbers going into the budget system. And I think I forget what was the exact 98.50 was the increase that we'll see. And again, like I said, for coming out of a 3-year tender, I was actually surprised that the increase was as small as it is. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, council? Okay, I'll move along with the motion then, that the township of Asphodel-Norwood accepts this report for information, and further that the council directs staff to enter into a 2-year agreement with Waste Connections of Canada Incorporated with a option for 1-year extension for the collection of curbside waste as specified in the tender number 2024-04. Moved by Councillor Ward, second by Deputy Mayor Burt. No questions we asked before, all in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. And we'll carry on, Jeff, with the speed reduction.
Great.
Bylaw?
Yep, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, R3, just a bit of a housekeeping item. Of course, as council's well aware, this has been on the action list for some time and we've been shoveling along. It is a good thing. I mean, a lot of, like I said in the report, a lot of the frontline complaints we get are usually speeding that we can't typically do anything about. We'll push to the OPP. We've installed our black cat, we put it on site. But I think it's because the complaints are typically sporadic all around the village. I think it's good to just implement the blanket 30 kilometers. It seems to be working well in the new developments. They're posted at 30. It's about the most due diligence that we can show. I mean, we can't control the drivers, but we're doing our part to try to make it as safe as possible with increased signage. And they will all be posted. Typically how the Highway Traffic Act was stated, if the road's unposted, it's assumed 80 or 50. So when we're doing something like this, we need to post it, or it's assumed 50 still. So today we're just trying to, I guess, just to have the conversation. If council wishes to bring the bylaw, we would try to do it for before the new year. I think the most painstaking process is the hand delivery or the mailing of the notices to get them door to door to everybody for a speed reduction. And CO and I discussed that we would probably just do it with our own forces and everybody grab 300 and go sort of thing. So
Yeah.
That will be the biggest part of this to return back. But again, I'm happy to answer any questions or discussion on a blanket speed reduction in village.
Councilors, any questions? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you through you. Thank you for the report. When it comes to budget, we do have money available right now, and the carryover will be budgeted in 2025, correct, for the signs?
Through you, Mayor, correct,
Okay,
yes, we
okay.
have some.
Want to double check that. And then, a question, I don't know if it would make a difference or not, but when it comes to insurance for our liability insurance in, the township and village, does that change? Like if somebody was in an accident, the speed limit has been posted at a lower rate, and let's face it, everybody likes to sue municipalities. Does that change or affect rates or anything like that? I just haven't I hadn't thought of it before. I just happened to think about it when you were giving the report.
Go ahead, CAO.
I'll take that one too. So through you, Beth, we can ask the insurance company that, but I would be very surprised if they gave us a break on anything like that. I don't think they're gonna have. I don't think it hurts us to ask the question.
Yeah.
But I'd be, like I said, I'd be surprised if they.
Yeah, yeah, okay, I just thought that it might be, preventative medicine, and you might get something.
Councillor Hotchkiss?
I wish they'd just give us a big discount, through you, Mayor, and just thinking of speed reduction, how were the traffic calming measures on Spring Street received? When they were posted to the traffic calming, was it overall positive feedback from residents?
Through you, Mayor, I received, probably more positive than negative. I think we did have one reach out for, that I received as negative. But I did get a lot of positive feedback, and they were very minimal, to have them installed. And we've actually had requested, I just received an email last Friday, requesting them actually on Robert Road, Murray Street in that area, looking at them. They really like them. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, yeah, like I said, I received more positive than negative.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Walsh?
Silly question to maybe ask Jeff, what is the current speed limit in town? So we're gonna go from what to 30?
50, if it's unposted, it's 50. We have a few spots, Spring Street, we addressed, quite a few years ago to 30 and then 20 in the school zones. A lot of the new developments are starting off as 30. So, but yeah, again, with the highway traffic act, if it's unposted, it's assumed 50, so. Yeah. So, 20 is, it does seem slow, and I can't say I always agree with speed reductions to solve traffic issues, but I think it just, our due diligence is on the table, and I think it shows that we've done our best effort to.
Correct. Any further questions? Okay, I'll read the recommended motion. That the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further the council directs staff to prepare a bylaw for a blanket speed reduction of 30 kilometers per hour on all streets within the village of Norwood to be presented at a future meeting. And I have a mover, Councillor Ward and Councillor Hodge-Greaves. All in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, Jeff. Moving along to R4. Seamus McDougall, Manager of Community Center Parks and Facilities. Dog Park, Asphodel-Norwood.
Thank you. Through your mayor, so this report is about the possibility of a dog park in Asphodel-Norwood. So recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding potential dog park in Asphodel-Norwood for information. And further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood proceeds with option 2 in regard to the potential development of a dog park. So background, the dog park has been on the management action list since I believe before your last election. And there are some positives and negatives. Currently, right now, again, before we divulge further, there's been zero public consultation on this. So advantages, community engagement. So it provides a place for dogs to be able to go interact amongst other dogs or dog owners. Maybe you're new to the community, or maybe it's an opportunity to meet new people. So it promotes socialization for both pets and owners. Health benefits, obviously, dogs can't walk themselves, so the owners are getting a little more active. Again, they're getting out, potentially living healthier lifestyles or contributing to overall community wellness. Third option, economic benefits. So depending on its location, the dog park can increase foot traffic to nearby businesses, benefiting local shops as dog owners visit before or after the park. Some disadvantages, so maintenance costs. Obviously, there'd be initial ones setting it up as well as ongoing for property maintenance, including cleanliness, repairs, signage, fencing, and security, constrain the municipal budget. At this time, not with no public consultation, not knowing how big this park would, where it would go, staff can't provide an estimate on what the main yearly cost would be or what future costs potentially could be. Second disadvantage, noise and disturbance. So obviously, wherever you put it, might not please all the residents. Residents that potentially have lived in a house for numerous years could now potentially be coming forth with complaints saying they can't sleep, or they're putting up noise or bylaw complaints. Third option or disadvantage is a liability issue. Obviously, it's the township owns the park. So in the event that something happened, it could potentially come back to us. So at the time of composing this report, the optimal window for planning a dog park in 2024 is passed due to there was no funds allocated. Staff also believe in 2025, the window is passed due to, again, as I mentioned earlier, no public consultation has been done. Staff have not communicated with other townships to find out what went well, what maybe didn't work well. What would they do in the differently, or what they would change? Third one too, staff don't have enough information to assign an estimate, and the first draft of the budget is due November 1st. So should council wish to explore the possibility of implementing a dog park in Asphodel-Norwood, staff recommend conducting the investigation in 2025. This timeline would allow for additional information gathering and community engagement in line with the newly implemented public consultation. So staff thought of 3 options for council to consider. Option 1, do not pursue the investigation of the dog park. The reason we didn't go with this one is, again, with no public consultation, we don't know if it's a good idea, if it's not a good idea, if residents want it or if they don't want it. Option 2, staff would investigate the cost and feasibility of a dog park in 2025. And if you chose to proceed at the time when we provided you an update on what it would cost, it could be included in the 2026 budget. Or the third option, investigate the cost and feasibility and have it shovel ready for when funding. Again, the reason staff didn't want to go with option 3 is by doing that, you're committing to actually doing it. So if we committed to doing it and then after we consulted the public and found out no one wants to potentially do this, our opinion, that would not be a good idea. So currently in 2025, no funds are allocated and no funds were designated for the 2024 budget. And in conclusion, staff recommend the council choose option 2, but will work diligently to complete any direction provided by council.
Questions of Seamus? Councilors. Deputy Mayor Bird.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the report, Seamus. Yeah, certainly, without feedback, without knowing costs, without knowing a whole lot of things, we certainly can't go ahead with it. I wasn't on the campaign trail last time, so I don't know when all of you were knocking on doors, if that was a big issue. It's been on the list for a while, so obviously it likely is, and especially with people moving into the area are likely, coming from other centers, are likely used to having a dog park. I'm not sure. But yeah, certainly I am in favor of option 2, if we get to that point, that we can do a little bit more digging on it before moving ahead. Yeah, so I guess my question is, when you were door knocking, was it an issue?
Not a few, myself. Yeah.
I had no one.
No one?
No one mentioned about them.
I do remember from previous time, there's a lot of dog owners out there. Every door you knocked on had a dog barking. I do remember that.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Councilor Walsh.
Yeah, I think I would just concur with Deputy Mayor Bird is, we haven't done any public consultation on this. I don't feel comfortable to make a decision on behalf of the township and the people of whether we want or need a dog park, but this would allow us time to do that prep in 2025 and if deemed that something that makes sense, that it could be looked at potentially for 2026 versus rushing into something and then we find that people don't want it anyways, or what they want is not what we can afford anyways. So
Right.
I think we got some more homework to do and I'm comfortable with option 2.
Councilor Hodgepries.
Yeah, my real concern is liability. I mean, I just worry about another place where people can, that's my big concern. But I guess investigating and see what other townships have experienced would be good, but that's my. Having known a dog that was attacked on the streets, it's very emotive when that happens, and for that to happen in a controlled and owned facility of the township would be my real concern. So I feel when we're doing the investigation to really look into other townships' experience with liability, because I feel that that could be a potentially very costly. But I would support the option 2 because we have no information to make any kind of decision. So thank you very much for putting it together, Seamus.
Okay, I'll read the recommended motion then, that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further that council proceeds with option 2 in regard to the potential development of a dog park in Asphodel-Norwood. Moved by Councillor Ward. Second by Deputy Mayor Burt. All in favor? Motion's carried. Seamus, I know Marmor has one. I don't know how they make out with theirs.
Thank you.
And moving along to R5, community garden update.
Thank you through your mayor. So this is a follow-up to the report that was presented in the summer. So a recommendation that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report regarding an update on the community garden initiative for information. And further that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood approves proceeding with option 2 for the potential development of a community garden. So like I mentioned earlier, a staff report was taken to council June 11th. At that time, it was deemed we missed the optimal window for the 2024 season. Council passed the motion directing staff to begin planning for the development of a community garden in the fall of 2024 with the goal of implementing it in time for the 2025 season. So initially, staff explored the possibility of incorporating this garden as part of the 200 million community sport and infrastructure fund. However, due to time constraints in meeting the application deadline, the option was not pursued. Staff considered various options at the last meeting. A couple of them were discussed. One was the vacant lot on Mill Street, another one was Westwood. Staff believe the area behind the existing flower bed near the community center park walking path is the most suitable site for the community garden. This location offers a central accessible space that aligns well with the vision of the community garden and would complement existing park features. The reasons for this recommendation include available parking, accessibility, the site benefits from both sun and shade. It's a high traffic area, so other park activities take place, so visibility and community engagement will be there. Proximity to water sources, because obviously that's a big thing they need in order to be able to grow the plants. And the last one, the potential for future expansion if needed. So staff looked into the anticipated costs and were able to come up with, they estimate just over $4,000. In light of the potential unforeseen expenses, including maintenance and minor repairs during this being the first operational season, staff recommended budgeting $4,500 to cover additional costs. So the proposed community garden, I included a drawing of it. It would entail initially 8 plots. Each plot is 8 feet by 8 feet. Each plot would have a 2-foot area around it for wood chips, so that therefore you're not walking on someone else's plot in order to get to yours. Or someone moving a line to be like, hey, now I have an 11-foot one and you're a 9-foot one. 2 with 1,000-liter water tanks to ensure sufficient watering. Safety fence around the surrounding area, that's to secure animals from getting in. Rules and regulations sign outlining expectation and responsibilities for plot users, noting the township will not be responsible for purchasing seed, tools, or maintaining these plots. They'd be responsibilities of the individuals who secure the plots. So how the 8 plots would be assigned. Staff proposed the following process. Community members interested in securing a plot would submit a request via telephone, email, or in person before a designated deadline. Once the deadline is passed, staff envision a draw being determined to allocate the funds. This can be done by the CEO, deputy clerk, deputy treasurer, or a member of council. Staff are open to exploring alternative ideas if there was maybe a better option out there. Option for next steps. So staff presented council with 2 options. Option 1, council approves the $4,500 that's been proposed in the first draft of the budget, and staff implement this garden in 2025. Or option 2, council approves the community garden as a shovel-ready project, and the project waits until funding becomes available. So that could be a grant, that could be fundraising and potential development. I know Councillor Walsh reached out, that could be a partnership with the Service Club, Alliance, or another group, as well as there's a community and bloom funding opportunity that's year-round, so that could be an alternative. Financial implications, so initially in the 2025 first draft, $4,500 was put forth for the community garden. Should council proceed with option 2, this amount would be removed as the project will be delayed until suitable funding opportunity arises. Conclusion, staff recommend council proceed with option 2, which will allow more time and for public consultation and preparation. This approach ensures the project is shovel ready when a funding opportunity or partnership becomes available, while also providing staff with the flexibility to gather additional community input and refine the garden's design.
Thank you, Seamus, for that report. Council, you have questions of Seamus? Councilor Ward.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the detailed report. I really like the breakdown of the anticipated costs because I think sometimes we get into some of these projects and we don't have, you know, the details of every cost that's going to be involved. I agree, probably option 2 is probably the best way right now and see where we can maybe have, reach out to some community groups and see what kind of partnerships, maybe can go ahead, but I agree, let's see where we can get some, funding. And so I appreciate the work that you've done because I know that, you know, people had reached out to me, prior to this about this, community garden, so I know it's something that I believe that we need it. It's just how we do it. And so thanks for having a guideline how we can move forward. So I'm for option 2.
Any further questions, Councillor Walsh?
Through you, Mayor. Just with that site and just looking at the site plan, if this were to proceed and take off, is there room there to make it bigger if it had to be?
Yes,
Like there is.
through you, Mayor, when we were debating this $200 million grant, we were willing to go up to 16. So that would be doubling it. Obviously, again, with more time and more public consultation, maybe if it does go, maybe it's 10 to start. We thought 8 is anything less than 8, kind of, in our opinion, it's kind of too chintzy or too little.
Yeah.
But yes, there would be the possibility. We also, in that picture, you can see, we also own right to the fence line, so it can even expand and go a 3rd row. So there is potential for expansion, and that's why, again, choosing a location, you don't want to put one where the garden goes over well, and we got 8 for the next 40 years. It could be, we got 8, now it's 10, now it's 20, or maybe it's 6, or maybe it's for a few years that you find however many plots were done that's all they need. But to answer your question again, yes, there's room to grow.
Very good. Yes, go ahead, Councillor Walsh.
Yeah, I like the idea of option 2. We're gonna have a tough budget for 2025, so if there's a way that we can find some potential funding elsewhere other than our municipal budget and taxpayers, I would be supportive of that. Yeah, there are some organizations in town and service groups that might be interested in taking this on as a project.
Okay, council, I'll read the recommended motion that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further that the council approves proceedings with option 2 for the potential development of a community garden in the township of Asphodel-Norwood. Mover, Councillor Walsh, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion's carried. Seamus, you get to continue on.
Thank you, through your mayor. So, the next
Library.
report's, Westwood Library ramp update. So, this report's about the Westwood Library ramp, and further that the council of the township of Asphodel carries over the completion of the Westwood Library ramp project to 2025. So background, in 2024, there was, 25,000, allocated for the Westwood ramp project and the Norwood Library roof replacement. The library roof has been, completed with a steel roof coming in at $12,821.76. Therefore, just over $12,000 remained in the 2024 budget for this library ramp project. Staff did receive a quote from Carter Concrete, and the quote came in at just over $8,500 plus HST. So at the time of this report, staff were originally planning on proceeding with this. And then after having another conversation with Carter Concrete, finding out that no matter what the weather is, as of November 1st, the winter heat charges come in. So even if they were to pour on a day that was 25 degrees out, you still have to pay for it as if, because it's after November 1st, and that's an additional cost of $24 a square meter. So obviously, including with that, would increase it, plus you'd have to pay an extra charge for a pump and a fuel surcharge. After hearing this, we immediately consulted the CEO librarian, got their opinion, and we both believe it's best to push this off and have it ready to be able to do, once the snow is gone in 2025, we get this project done. So we also had discussions and we agreed, again, like I said, to push this off. This also gives staff, as I know, one of the library's goals is to remove the garden in front of the ramp. I believe they're getting a new bench to put in it, as well as the big thing is, because there's no sidewalks in Westwood, this will allow the person that parks in an accessible parking spot to not have to walk by the road in order to access the library. Especially too, if you're parking in an accessible parking space, you tend to need more room. So therefore, maybe you are walking or wheeling on part of the road. Instead of this way, they'd be able to go in front of their vehicle, which again cuts down on a potential safety risk. As well as a nice bench and planters that would go there. So the concrete pad will also increase, like I mentioned, the accessibility. So by also pushing this product, we can do both together. So you're not having, where this year, maybe you would have been able to get the ramp done, paying more money for it, but then next year you still have to come back and rip it out. So you might as well put both projects together and the same person comes in and does the concrete at once. So that, like I mentioned earlier, the CEO librarian was engaged in this decision-making and supports the recommendation to defer it to 2025. So like I mentioned again earlier, there was, money allocated in the 2024 budget for this project. And in conclusion, staff recommend that council carries over the completion of the Westwood Library grant project and transfers the $12,178.24 remaining funds into the 2025 budget for this project. But then I did include a picture of the ramp as well.
Thank you, Seamus. Just a question. I know what the tender was there, or the quoted price. How much do you think that quoted price is gonna go up next year by leaving it a year?
Well, the one thing when we were looking through you there is it's already coming in close to that 10,000 mark. So kind of the reason we got a quote this year is because we tried to get it done. And by getting a quote, it was under the $10,000, which allows us to get a quote. But yes, we do envision partnering with doing the pad. You are looking at that 8,500 is going to be increased. So there's a very good possibility that it is gonna increase. So it could, one option could be maybe you put a little more than the 12,178 in there.
Okay. Deputy Mayor,
Thank you through you. This has been the ramp that just keeps on giving. This
Yeah.
started 10, 12 years ago. I was at the library.
oh,
The
wow.
first one was a disaster. Second one was done. Third one, it had that coating put on it and it continues. It has been this project that, yeah, it just keeps on giving. So when we knew this was coming and November 1st was coming, I thought, oh, I hope we don't do it, because I think that was the problem with the first round of the ramp. It was done in November. The weather wasn't great. It was tarped. It was a bit of a disaster. So I'm in favor of holding off now that we're into November. Yeah, and that was my question. I just wondered, percentage, obviously it's gonna go up a little bit come next year. Anyway, I hope that round 4 does the trick and that's all we see of the ramp anymore. That's just a comment, not really a question, but just throwing it out there for a bit of history.
Councillor Hutchcrews.
I assume we reuse the railings and everything. It's just, so those get removed, the railings, and then
Yes.
it's just the pad that's put back down. We're not buying new railings.
Correct. And through you, just to touch on that too, we are looking at getting snow guards put on the vestibule. Because that's gonna help too, is right now it's the snow just comes off the vestibule at the top and goes right on the ramp. So by having snow guards, which will help less water go there, as well as when the water freezes, it makes it slippier for residents and not walking up.
Okay, thank you. Any further, Councillor Wall?
One point, Jerry, and circling back because Jordan's earlier spoke about capital projects that carry over. This will be one that we would like to have, I'm in a line that we carry it over, but we one that we would get done versus the risk of it not getting carried over.
CAO out.
Through you, I'll have some conversation with the treasurer, but my first thought would be to take the money that's there right now and then open it up as a reserve for Westwood ramp specific. So that way, it's a very specific, where did this money come from? What is this money going to be spent on versus, okay, we just put 12,000 in the pot and we'll figure it. I wouldn't recommend that approach. I think we want to identify it, we want to say what it's for, and the best way to do that is we probably through a reserve, but I would like to have some discussion with him on what he thinks of. Okay. He's got other ideas that I'm open to that discussion. That's how I would kind of approach it.
All right, that makes sense. Okay, I'll read the recommended motion. That the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information and further the council supports the completion of the Westwood Library ramp project be carried over to 2025. Deputy Mayor Byrd, Councillor Hodge-Creeds, all in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you, Seamus.
Thank you.
CIO. R7.
Through you, Mayor. So I haven't had a whole lot to say at this meeting so far, so usually I've had a little bit more by this point, so nice to get in there, and look who I am. So what we're gonna talk here about is the Orca Risk Management Service and Education and Outreach Program. I know from putting this report together, we've had a relationship with Orchid to run this for at least the last 5 years. I think that would be 2019, and I think it might have even started a little bit before that. So they've been doing this for us for a little while. We have a good working relationship with Orca. There are no substantial changes that they've proposed. The price is a little higher, but seeing as there hasn't been a raise to that price in 5 years, it's actually not too bad. Like I say, if there are any questions, I'm happy to address them, but basically this is continuing, the current agreement ends at the end of this year. This is putting the new agreement in place with very minimal change.
Thank you, Alan. Questions about? Okay, recommended motion is that the council of the township of Asphodel-Norwood receives this report for information, and further that the council authorizes the mayor clerk to execute an agreement with the Tonabee Region Conservation Authority for the risk management services and education and outreach program proposed activities and service fees 2025-2029. Mover, Councillor Hodge Greaves, seconder. Councillor Walsh, all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving along to R8, Alan, management action list.
So this is the action list. This is where I give you the reminder that there are 2 council meetings left between now and the end of the year, which I'm not really sure how that happened, and yet we have documentation in front of us that tells us that is the case. Our next meeting on the 26th will be a fairly big meeting. We are trying to get as much of the stuff in there, so if there's any follow-up we need to do, we have time before the end of the year. For the 26th, I would highlight that the 2023 audit will be coming. It's a little bit later in the year than we normally like. Part of that was from the transition that we had. Part of that was also some issues with the actual audit. So they'll be coming. They will do a presentation and be talking about that. One of the other ones I wanted to highlight on the 26th is the grant committee update will be coming. So I've talked to you guys about this a couple times through the year. Basically, what we will be doing is bringing a couple spreadsheets, letting you know what all grants we've applied for throughout the course of the year, which ones we've been successful, which ones we haven't, and what we think we might be doing going in the future. So I think that will be a good one for everybody. We'll also be bringing an update on the cemeteries and everything that's going on with them, because we have had a couple of changes this year. The meeting for the 10th is, crossing my fingers when I say this right now, it will probably be a little bit smaller than this one and the one on 26th. But we will also be trying to make sure we wrap up everything we can between then and the end of the year. Okay, any questions on anything that we have coming up for the upcoming years?
Any questions, Councillor? All right, I'll read the recommended motion. That council accepts this report. Provisions suggested by staff and members of council. Moved by Councillor Ward, second by Councillor Hodge Greaves, all in favor. Motion is carried. Thank you, Alan. Okay, moving along to correspondence for action. C14, City of St. Catharines, Green Roads Pilot Project. What's council's wishes? Deputy Mayor Bird.
Thank you through you. Motion to support with a question for Jeff.
Okay, moved by Councillor Deputy Mayor Bird, second by Councillor Hodge Greaves. Jeff, you get a question.
No, it talks about the pilot project and some of the product is called bioresin, and I just wondered if you had any experience with it, or if you know much about it, or what you think about that.
It's funny, I didn't look at the agenda for this round, but I just video edited on my lap just a week and a half ago about this stuff. Looks really neat.
Neat is good.
Neat is good.
Pretty technical.
I didn't give Jeff a heads up.
Video, it's basically the roads are tore apart with the gravel, like the greater Ripsey roads, Partnership gravel roads. It's sprayed in very much like an emulsion for a surface treatment, and then it's just regraded and compacted. Kind of the same principle as a tar and chip, but just using your existing gravel. Very similar, like a dust control application, but it stays there in bonds. They said you can drink it. They don't recommend you do, but they said it's very, very safe. So I would like to look a little deeper into it and check it out and maybe reach out. So yeah, it's funny, it just hit the agenda at the same time as the video last week. So very.
Thank you.
Again.
It's an intriguing product.
Council, all in favor of that motion? That motion's carried. C15, Good Roads, Establishment of Ontario Rural Road Safety Program. What's council's wishes with respect to C15? Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
I would like to support. I think it's really important. I mean, the stats are quite sobering that, 55% of deaths occur on 17% of the province's population. Having attended Good Roads and watched many safety things, they're actually quite terrifying. How if your roads aren't designed safely, then more people die. So I would be strongly in support of this.
Excuse me. All right, so moved and second by Councillor Ward. Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. C16, Town of Aurora. Request redistribution of the provincial land transfer tax and GST to municipalities for sustainable infrastructure funding. Deputy Mayor Burge.
I support that, probably won't happen, but I support that.
Seconder, Councillor Walsh. Any further comments? All in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. Council liaison reports. Does anybody have anything they'd like to bring forward? Councillor Ward.
Thanks. Just a reminder, for this weekend for, November 16th and 17th, it's, the Heritage Center Open House in Westwood. And, upcoming on the 19th, our historical speaker at the Norwood Town Hall will be Patrick Hill. Should be really interesting talking about, the Hill family of, Summer Township, really interesting family. And we also have the, BAC breakfast on the 19th in the morning at 8 a.m. It's 8 a.m. to 9 in and out. If people could put that on their agenda, we'd like to see you there. And we have an upcoming BAC meeting on December 3rd. And also a cultural and heritage meeting on December 19th at 4 p.m. at the Heritage Center. That's what we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hodge-Greaves.
After the last meeting, I attended the cemetery board. They decided not to recommend a Friends of the Cemetery committee moving forward. They just felt perhaps the whole idea of the cemetery coming into the township needed time to embed into the township, and perhaps in 2 years, when council reviews its committee structure, it might introduce something at the time. I will say there's quite a bit of it's very muted around the table. It's quite sad. Felt like quite a lot of the end of an era for many people, because the cemetery has moved into the township. So it was an interesting meeting. It was sad. It was, people have put there have over the years been a huge amount of volunteer hours put into the cemetery. So it was sort of a strange feeling, but one that I think the legislative and the complexity of software and stuff, it is the right move, but it's a bit of a sad meeting. And at this time, they're not recommending a committee at the moment. They feel that council should revisit it in 2026. So that's my update.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Burge.
Thank you to you. We had a library board meeting last night. A reminder, in addition to the event at the Heritage Center, is the Makers Market at the library, Saturday 9 to 1. We reviewed the draft budget last night and Jordan was in attendance, so we got a first look at that. And we're just waiting on another item. One thing I wanted to touch on is, if you've seen it on social media, the public library has applied to the Commonwealth LEAF grant, LEAF grant for tech revitalization, requesting $27,000, just a little over $27,000 to fund the project. And what we have found out is all of the PAC computers, public access computers, are at the end of life starting next October. They cannot be updated. There cannot be security fixes. Nothing can be done. That's their end of life. So obviously that has gone into the budget. So what we're hoping to do is be successful with this LEAF project. Not only would it update the PAC computers, which hopefully will be laptops, so that they're a little bit more compatible programming. There would also be a digital notice board at the library for increased communication. Text program offerings that would include tech support for seniors, coding for kids, digital literacy, all of those things. What the Trish and the library board is asking, if you could go on the social media site, there's a link that says you can go in to support the project and just leave a comment about why our libraries are important and why this tech program is important to our community. And I think when you think about it, it's connection and all ages learning, and you can decide for yourself what words you want to use, but those might be some buzzwords. Just take a look at the project itself. If you could do that and share the news this week, they will have a decision. I believe the success of the application will be known by December 10th. So if those comments could get put in this week, it would be much appreciated. And I don't know if it's one of those things where the more comments, the better. I'm not sure, but it doesn't hurt to support that. So I just wanted to let you know about that. And I think that's all I have. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf?
Sorry, just to follow up on my liaison report, on a Saturday, we are doing a dedication plaque for Judy Chaplin at 10:30 a.m. at the Heritage Center. And the plaque is, it's going to be called Judy Chaplin's family archival collection. She did most of the work on the family trees in there. And so her husband, Ron, will be in attendance, and that's at 10:30 if anyone would like to come down. She certainly did a lot of work at that Heritage Center. So, sorry, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Thank you. Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, just a quick update on the Special Events Committee. We met on first Tuesday in November, just kind of reviewed Pumpkin Parade that happened on November the 1st. Amount of pumpkins received were down. Actually, Asphodel Heights at 0. There was, I think I had 10 or 12 in Westwood. Overall, they were down. Our crowd was down. So I think the committee's just going to kind of relook. The one thought is, it's the night after Halloween. Parents have been out the night before with their kids till all hours, and is that timing right? We can't wait much longer because even that night after, some of the pumpkins are in bad shape. Anyways, just it's going to be revisited and looked at, and we kind of left it to the new committee that will be starting out in the new year as to what they want to do. Just briefly kind of discuss the budget, kind of start to put a draft budget together for the new committee to have them start with. And we do have some remaining budget at that group. And summary to what Jordan and Alan had mentioned earlier is looking at a couple of dedicated projects that if we do want to carry that budget over, that would have a specific purpose attached to it versus just say, hey, we'd like to carry over a bunch of money and hope it's there next year. So yeah, next meeting, first Tuesday in December will be the last meeting of the current group, and then we'll have a new group beginning of the new year.
Thank you, Barry. Any further liaison reports? No, general business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss? Deputy Member?
Thank you for your minute. Just had a question and I kind of thought of it today. Any update on status of the kind of the interest in an outdoor rink this year? I know last year was the second year, wasn't too successful because of the rotten weather, and I didn't know, I know the volunteers did not want to continue on, so.
Go ahead.
Through your mayor. The last update I saw, which was probably at the end of sort of last season, was people who had, volunteers who had done it before were not interested in moving forward. We have not heard from any other groups. Now, we have also not actively been looking for any other groups either. We were sort of just gonna play it by ear and see how it went. The challenge we have now is with the climate that we have, it's awful hard to make a commitment when you might end up with 1 or 2
I know.
good days. I couldn't blame anybody for that myself, and that's not specific to us, that's across, I'm gonna say Southern Ontario, but I ran into the same issue with Northern Ontario even. So again, we haven't been actively looking. If somebody was interested, we'd be delighted to have a conversation with them about it. But I think the biggest challenge is there isn't a sense right now. I know some other municipalities in Durham and in other spots are now putting ones in where they have they're outdoor, but they have the everything underneath, so it doesn't matter, even a one or two, they can still have proper ice in there. I don't think that's something we're looking for at this point in time.
No, I just, I was interested if anybody came forward, so, okay, thank you.
All right. We're now going to move into a closed session to review applications for committees and boards of council. We do this in accordance with section 239 C, section B of the Municipal Act, and at this time, 2:15. Can I have a motion, please, to end the close? Councillor Walsh, Councillor Hodge-Greaves, all in favor? Motion's carried. We are now back in the open session and the time is 3:01. May I get a motion directing staff to follow the directives given in closed session in regards to the community member appointments to committees and boards of council? Mover, Councillor Hodge-Greaves, seconder, Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? That motion is carried. There is no notice of motion today. Going on to the confirming bylaws, Melanie.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. The bylaw has been firmly completed for the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Asphodel-Norwood held this date, November 12, 2024. We read a first, second, and third time and numbered 2024-51.
Mover, Councillor Hodge-Greaves, Councillor Ward. All in favor? That motion is carried. And we have a motion for adjournment. Councillor Walsh. Deputy Mayor Burt, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you, everyone.